Okay, thank you very much for everyone for joining us today. I'd like to welcome everyone on behalf of the Ontario Public Works Association. Thank all the attendees for taking interest in today's webinar. The webinar is entitled How Flushables Impact Our Sewage Systems and What Can Be Done. This webinar has been organized by the OPWA Education Committee, and I'm a member of that committee. My name is Don Kudo. I'm a past president of the Ontario Public Works Association and a current board member and a member of this education committee. So this is one of the many webinars that we put on monthly throughout the year. So just briefly about OPWA, we're a not-for-profit organization of public work professionals right across the province. The Ontario chapter is one of 63 chapters in the American Public Works Association. Currently, OPWA has over 500 members who are employed by municipalities, regional governments, consulting engineers, utility companies, contractors, and suppliers. We also not only have our main OPWA association, we also have a couple branch associations, the Ottawa Valley branch and the West Central branch. So connecting with the Public Works Association is the Public Works community is the mission statement for OPWA. We provide members opportunities to connect through workshops, conferences, and social events. It's a great way to connect with people in your public works network from a very wide variety of industry professionals. We have 9 different committees at OPWA, and so there's lots of different areas of interest for those of you that are thinking of joining us and volunteering for a committee. It's a great way to meet people and encourage you to consider joining. If you're interested in more information, please check out the webpage that's shown here on the screen. So part of OPWA, we put on a number of events throughout the year. Here's some of the chapter events that are up and coming. One of our great events that we host every year is the annual OPWA Rick Robershaw Summit Expedition Snowboard and Ski Day. It's being held on February 12th at the Osler Bluff Ski Club up in the Collingwood area. The last day to register for this event is on February 6th. And yeah, always a great event, 200 to 300 participants there from, once again, a very wide variety of the industry. OPWA celebrates International Women's Day with an annual seminar that's being held on March 5th out in Concord, Ontario at the Paradise Banquet and Convention Center. Another wonderful day-long event that highlights some great stories of success of women in public works. A deadline to submit for our 2026 OPWA Awards, which recognize Project of the Year and also individual recognition. Those applications, the call out for applications has gone out, and the deadline for those submissions is March 6th. We'll have our annual awards banquet to be held just a couple days prior to National Public Works Week. That's in the middle of May. So that's a great time to recognize public works projects and outstanding work throughout the industry. And big thank you. Our association could not function without the number of sponsors that we do have from the industry. Here's a long list of our current sponsors. And they help us not only bring you these types of webinars, but also host the number of events that we can have throughout the year. So we'd like to thank all of these sponsors for their generous support and contributions. So here's some of the rules of engagement for today's webinar. All the attendee microphones have been muted. Cameras will remain off. There is a Q&A box that you can click on to add your questions to the webinar. as you'll go along, I'll be checking that out, and we can address these questions at the conclusion of the webinar. And yeah, we're thinking the webinar will be the duration just between in the lunch hour here, so about 1 hour duration. So today's presenter is Barry Orr. Barry is an environmental science officer in the Capital Region District, and that's out in Victoria, BC. So it's great to have Barry presenting from the far west coast there. Barry's dedicated to protecting public health and ensuring local wastewater and sewer system integrity. He's been very involved with this topic about flushables in our sanitary sewer system. I believe Barry mentioned about over 16 years of involvement in trying to work through this matter. He's played a very prominent role both regionally, nationally, and internationally about flushability. He's a spokesperson for the Municipal Enforcement Sewer Use Group and has championed the message, "Toilets are not garbage cans," which is a great message that's hoping to shape public education campaigns across Canada. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen currently and turn it over to Barry. So Barry, if you want to load up your presentation, I'll just briefly go over what the presentation will be about. Flushable products is something that the general public does not think too much about when flushing wipes down their toilets. Municipalities and wastewater utilities are facing operational, financial, environmental impacts from improper flushing of wipes and other products that are wrongly marketed as flushable. So there's not a current Canadian standard for flushable products, and they're impacting our municipal sewer system. So Barry's going to present on some of the evidence and scientific research behind the growing need to support a flushable standard in Canada. So Barry, I'll turn it over to you, and thank you very much.
Well, Don, thanks a lot for the introduction, and thanks to the OPWA for allowing me the time to share this 16-year journey with you on flushability. I see a lot of my colleagues from the Municipal Enforcement Sewer Use Group are on this today, and so I'm glad to see that. I also a shout out to my Toronto Metropolitan University colleagues that I see are on the call today. So it's quite a journey that I'm going to show you over the next little hour. And I just want to share a little bit of the experience. Being out on the West Coast here, I'm able to do quite a bit of hiking. And so my wife and my dog will be out every weekend on a trail. And the other day I'm on the trail, and it's pretty common to come across bear stuff. And so I came across the bear poop. And lo and behold, that bear had gotten into garbage. And what's in the middle of the bear poop? A wipe. And so this just highlights the absolute enormous usage of wipes out there. And as I park in a parking lot, I'll see wipes lying on the ground. So people are using them everywhere, and the environment is suffering. And so I'm going to show you some of my scientific stuff today that we did at TMU and just go through this journey. And so let's begin. So I'm going to look at wipes, who determines the criteria for flushability, source control, the testing criteria that we've looked at, the actual issue. What is this issue? Pathways towards standardization has been a long, long journey. Without a flushable standard in Canada, there are some implications. I'm going to conclude, and I also want to highlight a new issue that I've discovered around vapes. So wipes. Hopefully most of you know what a wipe is, but these are the wipes that you find for personal use. They're fine for disinfectant use. They're cleaning your barbecue, they're cleaning your bum, they're cleaning your face. Like wipes are out there for almost every single application we can think of. Okay. Now, these wipes, they're manufactured of fibers. And the fibers, they could be cellulose, they could be cotton, they could be regenerated cellulose, which is component of lyocell and rayon. They could be made of plastic. So polyester and high density polyethylene are in these wipes. And so the fibers are of concern because they're strong. And so we've learned over the many, many years of doing this research that plastic wipes, they stretch and they stretch and they stretch. And so the short fibers that are used to make toilet paper are cellulose based. And so the dispersibility properties increase as the length of the fibers shorten. So that's an important thing to know. So who determines the criteria for flushability? So here's some examples of products that are out there marketed as flushable. We have dog poop bags that were labeled flushable. We have the wipes that were labeled flushable. Somebody's even decided that socks could be labeled as flushable. So do you think the government came up with that term? No. It was the manufacturers of wipes that came up with that term themselves. So some of the key players in determining what is flushable now are like Inda and Adana. They represent the nonwoven industry for both North America and for Europe. They produced a guidance document, and they've done it 4 times without the wastewater's approval. So it's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And currently we stand at the manufacturers have this guidance document number 4. No wastewater group in North America has acknowledged that they will accept this guidance document as a criteria for flushability. So that's really a key thing to understand. The Municipal Enforcement Sewer Use Group of Canada, back in 2010, was the first to start asking questions of the industry about the term flushable. And so we partnered up with the Canadian Water and Wastewater Association, led by the director, Robert Holler, to challenge the industry. How did they come up with their flushable criteria? And a work group was established to try to work through that with the manufacturers. And so Canada was represented and the US was represented, and many, many meetings occurred over a number of years, and no agreement could come about. So we thought maybe approaching the International Organization for Standardization was a good way to solve this issue, and we started a project there that failed. And so the frustration of the wastewater community formed a group called the International Water Surfaces Flushability Group. And that's the criteria that we in Canada are acknowledging as flushable. And I'll explain a little bit more of that as I go through the presentation. So I wanted to look at this packaging example because here you have a package of flushable wipes, and on the package, it does highlight a couple things, that it meets in the GD4. Well, first off, do you know what in the GD4 is? You do now because I told you, but if you were reading this package, you'd have no idea. And then I find it very interesting that in this packaging example, it has not all systems can accept flushable wipes. So that's I think a key indication of the problematic situation we have around flushability. If you notice, it has a do not flush if, and so you can see that it violates local rules. Well, every single municipality in across Canada has a sewer use bylaw, and there is language right in there that would specifically say that you shouldn't be flushing products unless they were meeting a standard criteria. So that's something that we have to really work on. It says it's okay to flush if it's permitted by local rules. Well, the only local rule that has come about is that the Canadian Water and Wastewater Association has said, if you're going to label a product flushable, you must meet the IWSFG specification, and then we would consider it safe for our sewer mains and wastewater treatment systems. So not too many people know about that, and this is one of the biggest problems. I wanted to highlight a couple more packages here for you. And on the left, you can see this is a pet wipe, and there's a fold hiding that do not flush. Okay, so pet wipes are becoming more and more of an issue for us, and they're getting more and more exposure, and more people are buying them. So we want to make sure that those aren't getting flushed. Well, then I've got this other product here, and it says do not flush, but dispose of it in compost. Okay, so I met with the Compost Council of Canada, and they said they were having issues with wipes getting into their equipment and plugging up their equipment. The yellow and green in the middle, it is a disinfectant wipe, and it says very small blue letters, do not flush. And then I put in some examples here of the Cottonelle flushable wipe that has our IWSFG logo on it and does say that it meets the flushability guidelines set by the wastewater treatment community, IWSFG 2020, and by the Disposable Wipes Trade Association, INDA. So that's a little bit confusing, isn't it? Because now I've told you that we have the IWSFG that is an acceptable flushability criteria. And then you have INDA saying, well, they also have tested this product out. They very well might have, but the more stringent criteria is the IWSFG. Look at this Kirkland. So Kirkland wipe, it does have on the package that same statement about not accepting, all systems can't accept it. It does also demonstrate that it's met the International Water Services Flushability Group, but it's also met that in the GD4. So there is a distinction between the two, and we have to do a better job on informing consumers about what that is. Hence, that's why we came up with the logo, and that's why we're really trying to get a standard in place. So just showing you some of those packaging issues. So source control, well, this is one of the things that is, I believe, the most cost-effective and sustainable method to protect our sewer system. Because if it's not in the system, then it's not a problem for us. And so that's why we really are trying to impress upon the non-flushable material going into the garbage and not going through the system. Here we have an example of all across Canada, the facilities in blue and yellow that actually have some sort of treatment, and red is there's no treatment at all. Infrastructure Canada said in 2020, there was over 4,100 wastewater treatment plants and lagoons across Canada, and over 472,000 kilometers of piping is within Canada. There's massive amounts of pumping stations and different facilities, holding tanks out there. And so you can see that the infrastructure system is vast. It's very vast across the country, and that there can be implications in our system because of this non-flushable material. So this is an example of a plug pump. And at the Capital Regional District, we have over 300 pumping stations and wastewater treatment plants within our boundaries. We have estimated that across Canada, over $250 million is spent every single year on disposing of the non-flushable material. We looked a little closer at this number, and we found that municipalities were putting in new bar grates, they were putting in new screens, they were putting in new buildings for screening works and that. And so the capital costs, because of this issue, is over $1 billion. It's just a massive amount of money. So we wanted to highlight a little bit about our 10-year journey, and 170 billion wipes have been sold across North America. We did some calculations here, and we found out that 850 million kilograms of wipes needed to be disposed of. And if you were to just put that into the landfill itself, that material is worth over $63 million. It's a very, very costly scenario, this non-flushable issue. And so we were looking at the landfill at our location just to try to figure out what kind of impact the non-flushables have. And what a lot of people don't understand is the screenings that are collected have to be disposed of a special spot in a landfill. Okay, it doesn't get mixed in with the normal garbage and compacted. So hence, that's why it would be really beneficial if you took a product like a wipe and put it into the trash instead of putting it in the sewer system, because now you have these two different disposal locations, and there are impacts that greatly impact us financially. So by putting it into the garbage, you save money. If you put it down the toilet, it costs us money. So there's a component of absorption with these wipes. And so if you decide to flush it, they can absorb 40 to 60% more moisture. So that's concerning because now you're putting it into a landfill. The landfill has leachate, so you're actually increasing the leachate by adding these wipes in the sewer system. Whereas if you would put it into the garbage, it would be a drier product, right? So we really need to understand what truly flushable is. And truly flushable is the capability of the product to disperse or fall apart. If it does that, then it's not impacting the wastewater treatment plant, pumping stations, et cetera, et cetera. We looked at our screenings total for the landfill, and in 2024, it was 1.4 million kilograms. We approximately have a population area of around 420,000 people. So I just find that crazy that means that about 3 kilograms of non-flushable materials are going down toilets in our area. That's just a massive amount. And so this is something that I'm really concerned with. I've just got in the 2025 totals, and it seems that we actually have leveled off because 2025 is also 1.4 million kilograms. So we have some work to do on educating the public that the toilet is not a trash can. Just going to look at our testing criteria that we've done over the years and some of the considerations. So we're looking at the flow velocity, force within the system. You know, the sewer system is like a lazy river ride. Okay, the things, they move around at a specific rate. And it's not like the roaring Niagara Falls. And so there is not a lot of force within this system. It is moving along to transfer that waste. And typically, you know, human waste is suspended within the water, and it moves it to that wastewater treatment plant for processing. So the system is not perfect, so there are imperfections and there are blockages that can occur by snagging. And one of the things that we have a real issue with is hair. And hair is like a binding agent within the wastewater system. And as wipes move around and the non-flushable material moves around, hair will encapsulate it and it will become entangled and it will become very, very strong and it may grab on an imperfection. Um, it may be captured in some of the fatberg, like when people dispose of fat soils and grease down the drain that they shouldn't have. Um, it creates a snagging point, and so these are important to understand. So the IWSFG group specifically looked at all the different criteria on if we made a standard, what do we need to do in order to quantify that a product is flushable. So we need to look at the toilet and drain line, and specifically, will it clear the toilet and will it clear the drain line of a local house? We looked at dispersibility, and so the dispersibility is all around the slosh box. Now, the reason that we came up with that is because we needed to come up with a benchtop testing that would replicate the conditions within the sewer system. And so we specifically had sewers tested. So my friend Frank Dick in Vancouver, Washington, he would use his sewer and he would put everything from toilet paper to various wipes in. And we had a criteria of that. It was a 30 minutes. And at the end of the 30 minutes, he would go and they would retrieve their products. And we would mimic the conditions that he found into this slosh box. And that's how we came up with the criteria around the slosh box. We didn't think we needed a household pump test, and that's INDA does have that test. We do not think we need it. Acetylene test, we don't want these things to be floating and buoyant in the wet wells, so there's a acetylene test. We felt that anaerobic was a harder test for things to pass, and so we went with an anaerobic test instead of the aerobic test. We did not want to have a pump test in there because our key is around dispersibility and can we make these products into dispersible small pieces. And then one of the last criteria was that we were looking at the fibers and we didn't want plastic fibers. When the MISA group started to look at this issue, the first wipes that were labeled as flushable were actually baby wipes that were cut down into a smaller size and they were made of plastic. And so things have evolved quite extensively over the years. But the key here is that we're looking that there's no intentional plastics. So here is a picture of the slosh box. And the criteria here is that we're looking for at least something 25 millimeters or 1 inch and smaller within 30 minutes. And so this replicates what we had found in the 8-inch sewer with Frank. And so this box, the slosh box, it shakes back and forth, and we have about 4 liters of water in there. And there's a difference in the amount of water that you put into the box and shake it back and forth. And that's one of the differences between the IWSFG and INDA is that INDA uses only 2 liters of water and it creates a lot more force within the slosh box. And so this is the key. So this is a product that has passed our test, and you can see that the majority of the products are under that 25 millimeters. Then we pour it through a sieve and try to determine the size. So it's a little bit more complicated than what I'm showing you, but anyways, so at our Toronto Metropolitan setup, we took an 8-inch pipe and we put it together with a 1 to 2 inch slope and we had a snagging point. And so we set the flow as 15 liters a second and we tested a whole bunch of products through this. And so the whole reason that we did this test was that we wanted to see if the snagging product would disperse in a certain amount of time. And if it didn't, what was the force like to break these things apart? Or was there more of an opportunity that one wipe was on a snag, and then the next wipe came down, and then there was another wipe on the snag, and so it just built up bigger and bigger, and so then that could create a blockage. So we were specifically looking at the dispersibility criteria, and I want to share that with you now so that you understand this. So here's 10 different products that were labeled as flushable. Okay, all these products were labeled as flushable, and we put them through that PAS-3 test. So that's the one that the IWSFG did. And so you can see the dispersibility of that. Then we did this sewer line snagging. And this, what we did was we would leave that snag in for 30 minutes, and then we would take it out, dry it, and weigh it in comparison and see what the dispersibility was like. We did calculate our flushes, from our toilet all the way through our drain line. And then we looked at the moisture retention, because I told you that these fibers absorb moisture. And so the first item, an ostomy pouch, it's plastic. It is a 100% plastic bag, and it was labeled as flushable. And so you can see that it has a zero dispersibility. The real question is, why is it allowed to be labeled as flushable? So, and I wanted to highlight, you can see that some of our flushable wipes are really dispersible. So that's great. Some of them, not so dispersible. And so there is a big difference, but look at toilet paper, and toilet paper has always been the benchmark. And so if I have a bamboo toilet paper, and everybody thinks, oh, this bamboo one-ply toilet paper, it's pretty good. But it is, and it breaks apart really good. But it also falls apart in longer strips. And so there is some implications around these longer strips, but they are safe for the sewer system. And so the big question that I put towards everyone is, are you a scruncher or are you a folder? Because if you do fold your toilet paper, and typically the test criteria is you take 6 sheets and you fold it over, and now what do you have? You have 6 times 2 is a 12 ply, right? So it's very, very thick. And so you can see that the dispersibility numbers around folded are less than scrunched. So I encourage you all out there to be a scruncher now, not a folder, okay? Another thing, paper towel. Paper towel is not flushable. Yes, it's made of paper, but it has a binder that makes it very, very strong, and it's very absorbent, and so it is not flushable, okay? So the big issue with this flushable wipes and non-flushable wipes is the absence of a legislated industry standard, okay? The main obstacles to solving this issue, well, that wipe, it needs to disperse. It's not supposed to contain plastic. We don't want it to be buoyant. It needs to be made of natural materials, okay? They have to be readily degradable. If it snags, then we want it to release itself in the sewer system. Unless you meet all of the above, then you need to label this thing as a do not flush. And so that's going to be an important part of education, because as you can see, we did some collaboration with our Western University students in London, and we had some logos out there for them to show the public and ask them if they felt that the public understood that these logos were not for a product to be flushed. And overwhelmingly, people could identify with this. So and I'd like some comments on these logos, because as we move forward with a standard, we are hoping to get one of them in play. The one in the middle is currently being approved by the ISO group. It will meet all of the criteria. And so this is what we're aiming for an international do not flush symbol, the one in the middle. So the other ones are versions that we as a group were working through. And so please give me your thoughts on these logos in the comments. As I mentioned, In 2010, the Municipal Enforcement Sewer Use Group took this issue on. So we met with, we met with CSA, and at that time, they said, sure, we'll take on the project, but it's going to cost you $200,000. And we could not raise that $200,000 for a standard. So like I said, we started working on the ISO stuff. And so that was in 2014. And it was really progressing pretty well. We had some good agreement. And all of a sudden, an attorney hired by the wipes industry called us out of scope, and that we weren't allowed to determine a pass-fail criteria. And so all that hard work ended in 2016. And so then we formed our group, the IWSFG, started working on our stuff. And we did put out in 2018 a specification, and then we modified it in 2020. And then the ISO group decided again to take another shot at it, and we just are in the voting process of that. But all it will do is identify the different criteria around the world to determine a wipe is flushable. So you've got INDA, GD4 in there, you've got IWSFG, you've got the Australia, New Zealand, you've got some stuff out of Europe. So basically it's putting all of these together, and you get to just pick. So we don't agree with that in Canada, so we have not voted in favor of this. The only thing we wanted to move forward with was the labeling criteria, and that's the focus of our work on this group. In 2021, Charleston Water Systems filed a class action lawsuit, and many of the manufacturers named in it have now settled that they will meet the IWSFG's criteria. And that's really exciting for us in the wastewater group. So Kimberly-Clark was the very first one to acknowledge that they can meet the criteria of the IWSFG and have put the logo on their product. And right across North America, you will see that. Others have been able to achieve that. The logo usage is not as great as I thought it would be, but as part of the settlement, most major manufacturers of flushable wipes can meet the IWSFG. However, it is not law in Canada, and it is only a settlement that was reached in the United States. Another highlight is here in March of 2023, the Canadian Water and Wastewater Association, their board approved that the IWSFG specification is the definition in Canada for flushability. So we're really excited about that, and we're trying with as many levels of government to acknowledge that the IWSFG is the basis for a standard. And we reached out to the Canadian Standards Association back in 2025 and asked them to move this project forward based on all of our research and work that the Municipal Enforcement Sewerage Group had done and the Canadian Water and Wastewater Association had done. And unfortunately, the CSA came back to us and said, no, we're not going to put this in as a standard because we don't think there is a high enough priority from the various sectors that are in the wastewater business are concerned about. And so this was really concerning to us all, is that CSA said no, and we actually have the money to put this standard forward. So we need to retool, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Yes, we have a little bit of a hiccup with CSA, but maybe the Standards Council of Canada will come through with a request for proposal for a standard, and then there's other opportunities, but CWWA has been working really hard on this issue, and Robert Holler has been pushing it right across the nation, and he has been pushing it through our colleagues down south in the US and trying to come up with something. But let's focus on Canada. Originally, we were trying to do a North American standard, but let's focus on Canada because here's some numbers that I wanted to share with you, okay? $23 billion in wipes sales, okay? That's across the globe in 2024. And now it says 3.2 billion meters squared of flushable wipes. So I did a little bit of research, did some calculating on the surface area of those wipes, and found out that approximately 5.2 billion single-use wipes are used in Canada every year. Think of that number. And we don't have a flushability standard in place. So a lot of those products are clearly not flushable, but they're ending up in our system as the evidence shows. This presentation that was done back in 2024, it highlights, though, that flushable wipes standards are in flux as the IWSFG standard rivals India's Adonis GD4. So the manufacturers know that there's something going on around IWSFG and they don't like the GD4. So this is another one of those presentations, and I think it's very important to notice that the very presence of a standard like the IWSFG one will potentially drive brands and retailers to meet this standard even in other geographies. So we're making a difference by pushing this IWSFG, okay? The last point, the use of flushable wipes will continue to grow at a robust pace. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, many people are replacing toilet paper with these soft wipes. And you'd think that they're not that harmful, but when they twist and bind, they are very harmful. And so our future is not bright unless we come up with a standard for flushability. So in conclusion, I just want to really press upon the importance of a Canadian flushable standard. The IWSFG has done years and years of research. It is safe for sewer systems if you can meet it. We will need to continue to fundraise. There is a cost associated with getting the standard in place, as we've mentioned. If you have the opportunity to write to CSA Group Director Michael Leering, he wants to hear from you that there's a need for a standard, and he's the guy that decides whether or not we can put this flushable standard in the CSA's realm. We definitely need to increase public awareness. The toilet is not a garbage can, and we need to take the opportunity to educate the public. But until we have a standard, it's really complicated. And that's why the consumers are so confused on where to dispose of things. Municipalities, we need to be more proactive around sewer maintenance. And I really encourage the municipalities to look at their sewer use bylaws and add language around the IWSFG in there. I think this is one of the key things is that we can enforce our sewer use bylaw. Not that anybody wants to go and identify, but you want to have it in there so you can say if there is a blockage and if we have to spend the money, there is a cost recovery opportunity. So I just, in conclusion, I wanted to pull out this issue of vapes. We're finding vape cartridges in the sewer mains. You can see the different pictures here are from a lateral, and there's a plugged lateral with the actual vape cartridges in there. Pumping stations, the bottom of the pumping stations, we've been finding massive amounts of vape cartridges. It does seem that they're around schools, whether it's a high school or whatnot, but there is a higher presence of vape cartridges that are in the school district areas. And so be concerned and be aware. This is a issue that I'm just starting to get up to speed on, and I'm trying to work with the various school boards and that, but it's just like the wipe issue, it's a very complex issue. So just be aware of it. I'd like to thank you for attending the presentation, and please remember that the toilet's not a trash can. Thanks everyone for attending on your lunchtime today.
Great. Thank you so much, Barry. That was a great presentation. Just your knowledge and experience is was very recognized in your expertise there, and just your presentation with the graphics and all that really sends a pretty strong message. My gosh, didn't realize how much of an issue this was. Uh, Once again, highlights. Uh, Folks give credit, folks like you that carry on long-term projects that take there's so many hoops and so on. Just yet you have the research part, you got the social engineering, the education part, the impacts we're seeing, and then I guess the business sector part and the standards part. That's very complicated, but seems like there's a bit of headway being made here, which is great. I know you've asked OPWA to provide a letter to CSA to help, and we will be doing that as well. So that's part of the advocacy that OPWA does, and yeah,
Yeah, Don,
it's great.
thanks a lot because it's just I've been in the wastewater business now over 31 years. And when I started my career, I was the guy in the pumping station cleaning those pumping stations out. And we didn't see that issue. We saw that, yes, there was human waste that we had to clean up after a flood, and there was toilet paper and the occasional, you know, feminine hygiene product or condom, right? Like now we're inundated,
Hmm.
right? And so when you think about our system, and it's not perfect, and we do have bypasses that occur. And so if a bypass is occurring treatment, and you know that all this non-flushable material is within it, then the receiving bodies are getting all of this garbage too, right? And so that's why Don, I'm so concerned because I've seen this evolution of the toilet turn into a garbage can, and then you
Yeah,
have to connect the natural environment to it too, right?
right. Okay, we do have a few questions here for you, Barry. So I will read them out. And first one goes, are there any true flushable wipes in the Canadian market? I was a bit confused if the Cottonelle ones were okay. Uh, Not that my family would ever use them, even if they broke down like a regular toilet paper. So,
So there's the Cottonelle, and it has the
okay.
logo on it, the IWSFG logo. So Cotton L does have the criteria to meet the IWSFG, and it's on their package. So you should be aware of that. There we have another product that is across the border that performs better than toilet paper, and it falls apart very, very fast, but it hasn't made its way to the Canadian market yet.
Okay.
So
All right.
unfortunately, yeah, there are, Kirkland does have a product that is labeled flushable, and it has met the IWSFG. Although we have learned that there's two different manufacturers of the product, and so we have to, we need to verify these claims, and unfortunately, without a standard in place, you have no ability to verify. There's no regulation by the government, And so at our TMU location, we would have put things through the test for research and for our group, the Municipal Enforcement Sewer Use Group. And so, yeah, that is now not being done, and we need to pick up some slack because there are new products, and I just picked up one the other day, and I look on the back of the product, and it says that our wipes are flushable as defined by the INDA GD4 standard. And so you can see,
Right.
right?
Um,
So, so who's verifying this stuff?
that's right. I see.
And hence the need for the standard and the need for the regulation, or right?
Okay.
You said you had another question?
Yeah, so Barry, in the Q&A, do you have the Q&A button there? There's just a request for the contact information for Michael Leering there at the CSA. I don't know if you have that by, if
Yeah,
you could type that
so
answer for the person
you can
or,
reach out to Jennifer Lino as our chairperson at the
oh,
Municipal Enforcement Sewer Use Group. Jennifer will certainly help you out with that part of things.
okay. And here's a question. For Canadian standard, would there be a requirement for all provinces to agree? If so, how much of a hurdle do you see that this would be? Or could that be satisfied with just being a provincial standard?
Well, I think the provinces are all cooperating on this issue. I do, in the last little while, I saw Quebec has taken a leadership role in the flushability issue and is pushing hard for a standard. And so there's stuff going to be coming out of Quebec really soon. Also, I do know that the Canadian Council of Ministers of the Environment are also looking at the flushability issue. So that means that every single province is actually talking about this issue. And I think we're all aligned. So if we get, I think we just need to get to the federal level, that probably Standard Council of Canada needs to say, we need a standard around flushability. They put out a request for proposal, and then you will see probably CSA jump at that opportunity to be involved in it. That's what I think, and I think things are progressing that in that direction, Don.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think there was a request to
Oh, you liked my tie. Somebody liked my tie.
yeah, okay,
Thank
yeah,
you.
sorry, yeah. Do you want I wasn't sure if you want me to read that one out or not.
My
So what is on
tie
your tie?
my tie highlights that it's poo, pee, and toilet paper, with the fourth being proof that you have used the IWSFG logo. And the proof of you using that, okay, and thank you, Jennifer Lino, for my tie. There you go. Jennifer's put in her contact information for you below if you wanted to reach out for her for not a tie, but for the Michael Leering CSA information.
Okay. All right. Well, that is a great tie. People like yourself that are so dedicated and passionate about these, I'll say, everyday issues that not all of us think about. I do really appreciate and think that's just great for our industry. This is what we do for communities to make them better, and your dedication is very admirable, Barry. So,
Well, thanks, Don.
I,
You know, we can make a difference for our future generations, and
that's right.
that's what's burdening me right now, is that I don't want to put this burden of flushability on the next generation. We can solve this issue now, get a standard in place, then the generation is going the next generation is going to just work on that education and outreach part, right? So
Right,
I'll make it
right,
easy
right.
for them. So
Okay. Okay, so I don't see any other questions there. So once again, thank you so much, Barry, for this very informative talk. And I take it's once again, it's a developing matter. Maybe we'll find out what happens next as far as developing a standard and and the advocacy towards to CSA. So thank you again. Just like to remind all the attendees that these education sessions are put on by the Education Committee from OPWA. We have a number of them coming up. They're monthly. We're looking at webinars on the feeder main failure in Calgary, a power line in northern communities to get an Indigenous community off the not connected to the grid, or get them connected to the grid. Engineers of Tomorrow, looking at promoting engineering in the school systems. And yeah, there's a whole number of topics that we're looking at presenting over the next few months. So please be on the lookout for those opportunities, and please join us for future webinars. So with that, thank you again, Barry, and thank you for everyone for attending.
Thanks, everyone.